On the evening of Tuesday, September 10, 1901, 42-year-old Theodore Roosevelt boarded the night train from Buffalo, New York, bound for the place where he had always found peace and solace, the Adirondack Mountains. He had visited the area since he was a child and thought it a bully idea that it had been designated by the New York State Legislature as a park for use by the people. But what had really appealed to the former Rough Rider was the intent that it would be forever wild.
It must have been a great relief to the Vice President of the United States, knowing that he would soon be joining his wife Edith and their children at the McNaughton cottage in Taos outside Newcomb. Roosevelt surely was thinking about the past 4 days when he had rushed to the bedside of President William McKinley. On September 6th, the president had been shot twice by an assassin as he mingled with the crowds at the Pan American exhibition. Friday, September 13th, the vice president, accompanied by his wife Edith and their 2 nephews, 2 friends, James McNaughton and guide Noah Lecar, set out with the intention of making it to the top of Mount Marcy. Late in the day, they decided to spend the night at a cabin before continuing on to the summit. However, the next day brought rain and a chill wind. Mrs. Roosevelt and the children decided to return to the Taos Club, but the vice president was not to be deterred and began the ascent up Marcy, and arriving at Lake Tear-in-the-Cloud, decided to stop for lunch. Relieved to have found the vice president's party, Ranger Hall handed Roosevelt a telegram which had been sent to the North Creek train station and relayed by phone to the isolated area. It read, "The president is critically ill. His condition is grave. Oxygen is being given. Absolutely no hope."
There would be no reaching the summit of Marcy that day. Once back at the club, as the storm clouds continued to gather overhead, threatening a downpour, James McNaughton bought a second telegram. It read, "The president appears to be dying, and members of the cabinet in Buffalo think you should lose no time in coming."
A small crowd had gathered at the train station despite the early hour. Many of the local townspeople, already aware that McKinley was dying, were anxious to see the man who would be the next president of the United States, who was about to board a train at their station. Some had been there all night. Small groups had gathered on the platform to talk in hushed tones, while children slept on the depot benches, unaware they were about to witness history. In the still morning, they heard a wagon clatter across the wooden bridge in the distance and knew it must be Roosevelt. At 5:22 a.m. on Sunday, September 15th, the wagon pulled into the station. Roosevelt's secretary, William Loeb, was waiting on the platform next to a train that had been sent from Buffalo by C.D. Hammond, superintendent of the D&H Railroad. Loeb handed Roosevelt a telegram sent by Secretary of State John Hay from Washington. It read, "The president died at 2:15 this morning."
Roosevelt strode across the depot platform to the waiting train, still wet and mud-splattered from his wild journey through the mountains. He turned and waved once before disappearing through the door of the private rail car. Even though he carried no luggage, with him went the concept that would become one of the cornerstones of his administration: the need to preserve the natural beauty and resources of the land for all the people of the United States, the National Park System. It would be part of Teddy Roosevelt's ride to destiny.
Look at here, you rascal, look at what you've done. You've shot my husband with your Ivor Johnson gun. Carry me back to Washington. Well, the doctor came a-running, he took off his specs. He said, "Mr. McKinley, you bet just cash in your checks. You're bound to die. You're bound to die. McKinley